On Nationwide this evening, there may have been no St. Patrick's Day parades, but we celebrate all things Irish in Gaeltacht na Rinne in County Waterford. Tá scoil dúntanis, but when we were there last week, the students were involved in all kinds of studies of music and song os Gaeilge. We joined them, plus we travel around the area to see all that goes on in this part of na Déise.
We're Gade Mila Fall to Chaig Nationwide. This evening we are coming to you from Gaeltacht na Déise here in County Waterford. And this area encompasses two parishes, on Shamafobble agus on Rhine. And we are on a journey to explore Tanga, art agus an culture. And we'll see how music, dance and song is thriving sa Gaeltacht seo. And we'll find out what it's like to run a small industry sa Gaeltacht seo. And Star na Háite, and the history of this area and the establishment of Coláiste na Rinne and how it's helped the language survive.
I'm meeting Stúrthóir Coláiste na Rinne, Micheál Ó Drisláin.
Micheál.
Fáilte ród planet, tí Coláiste na Rinne?
Cáid an ilini anna, tá maid an dóiche
an dóiche. Sidé.
Tá maid agus a Gaeilge na Rinne chuna sa tánta.
Oh, sidé, há me go má.
I gomparad le cecha bhfuil tú.
Sidé.
Go le tan scoil go hálainn?
Gorba agat, se. So we're here since 1905. Coláiste na Rinne, I suppose, is one of the most renowned Irish language schools. We're situated in the beautiful peninsula of an Rhine, just next to Dungarvan. Beautiful coastal setting, I suppose. We normally say Gaeltacht na Gréine, or the sunny southeast here on Shaw. So it's a beautiful spot and we're blessed, and that's part of the charm of the Gaeltacht, of the Coláiste, and Maintre na Háite, the people in Saucerang as well.
And of course, keeping a Gaeltacht alive agus in Tanga bio, coming from a very small Gaeltacht area myself, we were kind of hidden away. Now you're on the edge. Capam should have been Buntáiste Mór. It's a huge advantage.
Kin to Buntáiste Aulmhór, it's a huge advantage in our setting, but in saying that, while we're on the edge in some ways, we're still very central to Dungarvan or Cork or Waterford. But I think being on the peninsula, it separates you from, it gives you the identity as well. It's a fishing area, it's the beautiful scenery, and I think it's Maintre na Háite. The people are what make up the community. Population of about 1,800 that are committed to Tanga, the culture and the heritage, and that's very evident still today.
So Star na Scoile, the actual history of the school itself, Céad bliain?
Bershag's Céad bliain, going back to the beginning of the last century, a number of people decided that there was a demand for Irish classes in Shaw-Sarine. So at the beginnings it started off as a hedge school in Ballingowl, the little fishing village here on Rhine, and what they did was they put a blackboard up against the wall outside and Hossashide Moona Gaeilge and so on. So from there, very modest beginnings, they managed to get a small building about 1.5 miles over the road, and then in 1905 we relocated to this current spot in Muilachorna, and since then we've been here, we've expanded the building. So you've had 4 or 5 people at the start, the likes of Farr Moore, Micheál Ó Síocháin, Diarmaid Stoke, Padraig O'Kyle, those that were committed to the language and that recognised, I suppose, the demand for an educational establishment on Saucerang. Hon Coláiste mar chrí na Gaeltacht in anchuid slite from an economic point of view, from an employment point of view, but as one of the main bodies to promote the language, to encourage people. And so we'd have 2,500 visitors on Sean Gach bliain Godí and Coláiste to learn the language, but to be immersed in our community, and it's one of the most important parts of the community. But we've seen a huge demand over the past number of years, because what we have here is going back to old traditions. Níl technoliacht, there's no technology, it's the simple interactions, it's the personal development of students as well, that they get to mix, to mingle, to learn the language in an idyllic setting here on Saucerang, and that's very important. But I think it's across all different aspects of the Coláiste, whether it's the new online courses that we have, that we're teaching people in Senegal, San Francisco, adults of all ages that can dial in and then come here in Rihintauri to spend a summer here. So it's the blended learning, so the old and the new mixed together is very important.
I heard one child describe Coláiste here as, oh, Mom, it's like going to Hogwarts. Tá sé knows Hogwarts. Tá sé knows, oh, it's eile ar fad, dríocht eile ar fad.
Tádríocht the Bant leis an áit so Kinta, the building itself, it's an old setting, it's over 100 years, so it does have that enchanted feel in one sense, but it's very modern in other ways, that it gives a safe environment. You know, we're on a 25-acre campus and Shaw, the Posh, you have the freedom to go out to the ball alley, to the all-weather, Egan Derrishachtana, Cosh Shaw, to Helvick, to the beaches, so it's a very simple life, and I think that's what people love in Haganshid and so.
Chomáile an Gaeilge, traditional Irish music and dance is a huge part of the culture sa cheantar seo. Mary Rafferty plays a role in this.
So Mary, it's not just a question of the language, because the music is just as important as the language.
Oh, very, very important. I have a local music school, and I bring in, it's a 4-hour deal where I have a few tutors that come in, so we offer all instruments, music, singing, dancing, all levels. And some of the kids, as they wait for other classes, sometimes they might strike up a session, and it's just a fantastic kind of thing that's taken off, and I'm very proud of it. And we're called the Hooli because it's all about having fun. Sometimes we might go to the Fleckhill just so the kids could see what's happening, but again, nothing too seriously, because I think it's more about a love of the music is what I want to share with them, because I learned all my music from my father. And my dad was Mike Rafferty, and he came from a place called Benlakill, East County Galway. And he always said to me, be proud of who you are and where you come from. And he said, we have a habit of dancing for everybody's music but our own.
So true.
So true.
So that the local group that you teach, and then the children, say, from the boarding school, who mightn't be here just for a year, they might just spend a year, transition you here.
Exactly.
And they mix well, and...
Yeah, they do. Like, the Skull and Annie here at the Closhta, most of them might not have ever heard Irish traditional music, or maybe didn't know what Sean-Os dancing was, or even maybe never even held a tin whistle before. So as I was kind of putting all these music classes together, I said, we should just have a group class as well, because I just think that's important. It's important for, the accordion player to know to listen and sit next to a flute player, and that's not, it's about music. Traditional music to me is from the heart. You walk into a session, people aren't reading music notes, they're playing together. It's a conversation,
But isn't it great to come into a community like this, and you're already learning Irish, which is great, but you're also bringing something into it. You're contributing to the area.
I'm happy to contribute, because it's fantastic to know that the kids are enjoying the music, and they're always smiling and having a good time, because that's what it's about.
What a wonderful talent here in Gaeltacht na Néise in Gunday, Cork, Lorga. Now the next story is a local woman, Anya Niaulu, many years ago decided to record all the old stories of a former generation on Seanach Loon, and to make sure they're preserved forever and ever in this beautiful book, Scaelta agus Seanachas.
I've grown up here in the Gaeltacht na Néise. My parents chose Onrain to come and live in. My father was originally from Youghal and my mother was from Cavan. But when we were very young, they raised us speaking Irish all the time, and we didn't live in the Gaeltacht, but they wanted to find a place where Irish wouldn't be seen as something unusual or different. So we came here when I was 5 years of age. I've loved it ever since. I've grown up here, and this will always be home to me. I think what makes this Gaeltacht area so special to us is that there's a great sense of community, there's a great sense of tradition, there's a great pride in the culture, the language and the tradition. There is a very strong sense of identity here. I think, identity is definitely informed by your past and by your local history and by your national history indeed. So I think that there's a very strong sense of that in this area. Back in the early 90s, I decided that there was a certain wealth of folklore, language, richness of language, songs, stories, names of cliffs, fields, fishing methods, all that sort of thing, which was rapidly dying out really because life was changing so much here in the 90s. I always had an interest in local history and in national history, and I had a particular interest in folklore. So I bought a Sony Hi8 camera, and I set about recording as many of the older generation as would have me, and many of them did. I got a wide and varied selection of stories really, ranging from Peg Benny Reagan, who was one of the oldest people interviewed. She was a lady of exceptional talent because she had a great recall of incidents and all sorts of customs and traditions, but also things such as she was a very accomplished St. Bridget's cross maker. She had all sorts of stories about customs and traditions around Lent and Easter, Chalk Sunday. Halloween still is a huge thing in this area. One of my favourite topics of those described in the interviews would be that of Tadhg Conún from Unshanafobal. He was a very accomplished storyteller. In the old method, he would have been a Shanachí, and he learned the stories from his father and his grandfather and so on. He was also a singer. He used to sing, he had a lot of songs off by heart. Mightn't have had a great performing voice, but you know, all of these tradition bearers bear the tradition in the way in which they inherited it. But the village of Ballinangowl, I suppose, is sort of the pulse of where the story happens. All work was a communal act in those days. People functioned as a very closely knit community, and you know, ranging from repairing torn nets to christening children, waking the dead, washing the clothes even. The women would meet out at the stream and wash the clothes together. They'd draw water from the well, they'd sit around the well and chat, and it really was a life that we'll never know again. It was always my intention to transcribe and to make this into a book, which would be something that I could sort of, you know, park in the community for future generations to see how life was long ago. So fast forward 30 years, and I have eventually recently fulfilled the aim I had all those years ago, in that I recently published the book. Its name is Scailteach Shanachas, Potatoes, Children and Seaweed. The book itself contains 21 chapters, a chapter for each of those interviewed. And I have transcribed verbatim the words in Irish as the interviewees spoke them to me. But I've also summarised in English at the end of every chapter so that a wider readership could access the stories. The book has been received very well within the community, and there was a huge crowd at the launch in the Hala an Phobal, the community hall, and I think that generally speaking relatives are very proud to have the stories of their parents or grandparents recorded in that fashion.
Both of my parents feature in the book. My father, Micheál O'Donnell, was manager of the Cloister here. He worked here from 1932 to 1988, so he was a long time here, and a lot of the stories in the book reflect on that time that he spent here. And my mother, Moya O'Donnell, also worked here and was a large part of the Cloister circle for a long, long time as well. We're so grateful to Anya, to have the foresight 30 years ago to think of recording the stories and memories of those people, for the future.
There's a legacy in the book for the community without a doubt, and the old ways that are described by the people will never be seen again. And it's probably got sort of national appeal as well on that level, insofar as that was common to all areas in Ireland before the advent of electricity and running water. So a lot of the stories are, even though they relate to local events and local people, they would be of interest on a national level as well. I hope that I've given something back to the community. The people who shared their stories with me were very, very welcoming and very generous, and nobody ever said to me, you know, will you go away with that camera? They couldn't do enough for me. They were really warm and welcoming, and really I suppose I just stored that tradition and want to pass it on to those who'll come after me.
Great legacy there for future generations. After the break, we have more stories from Gaeltacht na Néise here in the wild but beautiful peninsula of County Waterford. See you in a few minutes. Nationwide, we are here in Gaeltacht na Néise in County Waterford. This wild but beautiful peninsula is home to roughly 1,800 people. Industry is really important, and one of those very important industries is Nemeton.
This television production company is vital to employment sa Cheantar seo. Iriel McMurrough is the managing director here.
Studio Bra.
Yeah, Shohin Studio, it's the heart of the operation here. We've had some very famous productions coming from here, such as the original Spanish football Ole Ole. We had the health show live on RTE1 come from this studio, yeah. As well as other productions like Rugby Bio and GA Bio and Shalla Dahi at present, and all kinds of other interesting productions here.
Some people say you were kind of ahead of yourself. I mean, did you have a magic wand or a sense of the future when you knew that we'd always be into football and hurling and everything that is what we think is Irish? Agus is canal ní smó béim a cuidiú sin?
If only I were as visionary as you give me credit for, Blotned. Actually, it was almost by accident. You know, I was a freelance journalist. I was working in radio. Of course, in the mid-90s, TG Cahir was coming on this earth, and there was a lot of freelance activity going to be happening, a lot of independent productions, because RTE was founding the IPU and TV3 was coming in, all of that. But we had a specialisation here, mar bhí mar sa Gaeltacht agus bhí mar of the Obertre Gailing, so bhí agríthe leis an teanga, and we decided that TG Cahir would be a great place for us to work.
Larlam nu inis chun faoin an fustíocht thar na mblianta agus an tionachar. I mean, when you bring something like, which was a new industry at the time, into a very, very small Gaeltacht area, it kind of gives it a little bit of clout, you know, it gives it a little bit of cred.
Well, Hosnémar le Dinawan Diach Mahena Gobers Cholacht, and over the years that grew to 7, 14. We now have over 60 people full-time on staff here, and we've at least the same amount again working with us at weekends. It is unique, I suppose, in a small, rural West Waterford Gaeltacht to have that going on. But what's even more unusual, people comment on most, like that it's not just TG Cahir we work for, but RTE, BBC, Sky Sports, Adorama in New York. We have clients all over Britain and the US, and that really is where the uniqueness comes in a small Gaeltacht area.
From a point of view of employment in the area and training, I mean, you've kind of thought of every aspect of it, because I'm guessing when you kicked off there wasn't enough people that had that skill.
Starting in the mid-90s, there were no independent TV professionals available anywhere. We learned on the job ourselves here, myself and a few other people, but as time went by, you couldn't grow the business because there weren't people available. So we decided le takeíocht úntacha údarás na Gaeltachta agus Institute Technoliachta Fortláiriga to start our own postgraduate diploma, which we've been running for many, many years now, and the graduates come from that course and get employment everywhere in the TV industry, but primarily here with us, and that helps to keep the conveyor belt of talent coming through to produce all that programming.
Well, from a large industry to a very small one, I'm making a stop at Mirog Designs, sa Seanna Phobal. Le Cuirta Horta artist and illustrator, Shona MacDonald.
That's beautiful. Okay, I'm only now realising who you are, because I have bought these cards over the years.
Well, that's great to hear.
Tell me about the cards.
Well, I started quite a few years ago when we moved to the area, and I wanted to create cards in Irish because there weren't that many really around.
Right.
And I wanted to have some kind of outlet for making my own, like using my artwork and also incorporating the language, and so that's how it started really. And I sort of just grown from there to doing the t-shirts, and these are all organic cotton. I hand print them, and the designs are based on also a combination with the language and folklore and also the environment. So
It is brilliant because when you do what you do, you could live anywhere.
yeah, I mean, that's a great thing. You know, we can live in a beautiful place and run a business from here, and with the internet, you know, we can.
And not to be too intrusive. Is the business going well?
Yeah, no, it's been growing every year, so yeah, I can say that.
Now I see you like the cards are here. You've got Lán na Mothairc, Mother's Day, Teach Nua, congratulations on your new home. Well, best of luck, congratulations on the baby. You've covered everything, and it's very hard as an Irish speaker, I know, to get cards with Irish on them. But I see behind you, and I'm going to ask, it's very bold of me, is this a new development, illustration?
Well, I do this also, kind of do Macmarogue and also illustrate and write books. So this one I've illustrated and Maura Zeff has written it. So it's based on the myth of Aideen agus Muir. So she gets turned into a butterfly, and it's sort of a love story and how they try and get back to each other.
The colours are fantastic. So talk me through the stages of like your first idea, your thought, the message on the card even. So where do you start?
Yeah, so I suppose I'd start with the message, and I'd do lots of sketches to just try and then figure out which one would be best in which composition and what gets across what I'm trying to say. And then from there develop into a drawing, and I will do the colour separately and then scan it. So it starts on paper and then it ends up a finished digital product which can then be printed.
Do you try as much as you can to use organic material? Do you?
Yeah, that's really important. So there's no plastic in any of them, any of the packaging, anything. So organic cotton t-shirts, earth positive, and they're printed with water-based inks. And this is, of course, 100% recycled card, and the same with this, 100% recycled paper.
Which is brilliant.
Which is, I feel like it's the least I can do. Like if I'm going to make something, there's no way of avoiding waste, so I have to try and find the best way of doing the least damage possible.
And that's important to you.
Yeah.
Sinead, I hope you enjoyed the programme from Gaeltacht na Néise an Rhine agus an Seanafobal in County Waterford. There's such a wealth of tradition, culture agus teanga in seo a meas chomhlán in seo. Go dtíon chéad orella, slán agaí.